Alrighty, here we are once again. Well, here I am once again. Today's topic, or today's video subject, is what is the sun really? So this is going to be rather involved. This is going to take a bit of time to do. And depending on who shows up or does not show up is going to determine whether or not I stay online here altogether, period, outside of this live stream. But specifically this live stream, so I'm just going to wait before I get started. And I guess, I don't know. I don't want to play any music. I don't want to do anything except for wait. I guess I can go ahead and preface this by saying that the way that I have prepared for this is to write out questions for myself and then answer those questions that I have written out. And that's the way I'm going to do this. Hi, Daphne. So, at any rate, just waiting. Normally I would be playing some music or something just to bide the time, but I'll just sit there and nervously tap on this folder that I have, which I have my optical mouse sitting on, and if this takes a lot longer than it's supposed to, which it will, it's because of this. So, here's a question. But the main question for this is, what is the sun really? I'm going to ask this question. Does anybody know what a photosphere is? You can go on Wikipedia and look it up. But of course that will be related to the heliocentric globe model definition for it, because as you know, so-called science, not the real science but the other stuff, tries to fit everything neatly into that bogus model. And a little background concerning myself. I never really seen this as being important because there was other things that I thought to be much more important. But in actuality, it's part of the whole of everything that's going on here. And that would include the Artemis II moon, going around the moon, so-called. But if anybody paid attention to what was going on with that, you can see that it didn't go anywhere except for back into the ocean. Yeah. We're going to be talking a bit about the firmament, but mainly we're going to focus on the sun, what it is, and we're going to eventually look at where some of the transmission is occurring from that is creating this illusion, this staged reality. And it gets quite technical. However, that's not really the objective here for this live stream. It is to get one familiar, at least thinking a bit differently, and knowing that things are a lot more different than what they appear. The conditioning and the indoctrination here has been very strong, purposely. So we have Carla Love. Hi, Carla. I'm sure everybody can hear me pretty well. My levels are good. I checked this prior to coming on, so I know that I can be heard very well, which is a relief considering I've been having nothing but issues here with the audio. I feel so good when the sun is out. Maybe it's the heat, because living in the UK, it can be very miserable. Okay, we're gonna talk about what the sun really is and what is being experienced here briefly. Okay? So, the way that I had mentioned this prior, the way I have organized this is that I have written questions out for myself to be answered. So I'm going to be reading and I'm going to be responding to pre-established answers, so that it would be perhaps easier to follow this and I can stay on track as well, because I have a tendency to go off in many different directions. I always come back, but about the time I come back, the point has gotten lost from the listener. So I made it an effort to write this stuff out, and so I'm going to be reading through this. Okay? Hello from France. Welcome. Good to have you here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here in a little bit. But first, before I do that, I'm going to go tend to Dorian, one of my cats, because he's pestering me from the door. He's a bum. Not unlike myself, but he is a bum, and he runs the neighborhood, and he shows up over here when he doesn't get his way other places. But, I spoil the cat, and I have to find his food. Cat food. What are you doing? I was going to feed you outside. You're going to want to go back outside, and I don't want to have to get up. So that means you're going to stay in here. Not really. What? That's good food. What's wrong with you? What? You don't like this? There. What? Something wrong with this? What's wrong with this? Eat that. Okay, so I'm gonna go get some water too. So anybody, if you feel inclined to go get some water, good time to do it. We can all get water together. So, all right. Oh, so tired. All right. Okie doke. I hear an airplane. All right. Let me get this going here. Alrighty then. The main question here is, what is the sun really? So I have written out quite a bit here. However, I'm going to look to kind of jump ahead, because a lot of this is long-winded. It's pretty long-winded, so I'm going to try to be less long-winded by editing the process as I'm doing it. So I'll move to the third question, and that being, is there no inside structure to the sun? So I'm going to give you the Wikipedia response to this, which is built around, or it's framed through, the heliocentric globe model, which I do not subscribe to. That is false, because none of the math, according to what they give for this model, adds up. It collapses. It falls short, whatever you want to say. But I'm going to go ahead and give you the definition of what a photosphere is. Okay? So, is there no inside structure to the sun? Question. The answer, that which is called the sun is a photosphere. A photosphere, according to the heliocentric globe model, is a star's outer shell from which light is radiated. Now, that's not necessarily true. Actually, it's not true at all. So, what is it really? All right, we're going to get into this. It's going to take a little while. Like I said, this is a bit long-winded, so buckle up. Here we go. So, is there only a surface to the sun? Is there only a surface to the sun? Because we just got done going over a definition for what a photosphere is, according to Wikipedia. Of course, I've added to that. I included the heliocentric model as from which they pull that from, which is where they pull everything from. And it is the outer shell. So is that the sun is only a surface? And the simple answer is yes, it is. Because you're going to realize here what the sun actually is, and it's not what you think, or at least not what you've been taught in school. This may take a while for me to navigate through this because I'm using this mouse, and it's an optic mouse, and I'm using this to be able to move, and it jumps around because this is the wrong thing to be using, but it's the only thing that I can use because what I was using before, I no longer have that. And yeah, so just thought I'd let you know what's going on here in case you're wondering. And so I'm jumping way ahead where I didn't want to go. So trying to move this mouse around is quite the ordeal, because even after I place it where I want to, it moves by itself. So, so I answered briefly the simple answer for, is it just a surface? Is the sun, the photosphere, what it is a photosphere, okay? Is it just a surface? Does it have an internal structure to it? No, it is a surface. And so the simple answer is yes. We're going to get into defining this more, so no worries. All right. So there is no fusion in the sun, question mark. What is called fusion is only observed in the flares, which are the arcs of the plasma, okay? X-rays, microwaves, said the result of fusion is in the arcs. It's not that real science, because most of all of what you hear and are taught and what is propagated is not real science, okay? It's spoken with high-sounding tones, with a surety and confidence that it's true, those who present it in such a way. It's not that real science doesn't know how the sun works. It just doesn't know how to explain it in the working within the heliocentric model. See, heliocentric model is propaganda. Now, you can take away from this whatever you want, but this is what I come to understand, and it's taken a while to come to this place. And I have to let the cat out because I knew that he would want to go back out, so. All right, ding dong, let's go. Go on, get your butt out, scoop. Yeah. Dorian's becoming more and more of a bum. So, anyhow, all right. All right, how does the sun create light? Okay, I have to answer that later because we have to go over some other things. So keep that in mind because we're going to answer that. So how does the sun create light? Question. Is the sun a transformer? Yes, it is a transformer. Where is it transforming from? Well, that's a good question too, and that has to be answered later as well. Okay? So, bear with me here. This takes a little while. Okay? So the sun isn't burning anything. It's not a nuclear fusion ball of fire in the sky. Nope, not burning anything. So the sun is a converter. Ah, yes, the sun is a converter. It's a transformer. It's a converter. So we're starting to define it now a little bit, just a wee bit. So what is it converting to produce light? Okay, here's one answer. Light or photon energy is measured in voltage. Mainstream so-called science, again, doesn't know how to fit this neatly, although it's very obvious, because it's propaganda, okay? The heliocentric model has no explanation because it's a false model. The answer given from this position is the heliocentric model version, after a bunch of rhetoric and high-sounding tones and a bunch of 50-cent words, is that nobody knows. And that's not true. It's not true. We know what it is. They know what it is. Okay? Is it taking energy from a counter space or another dimension? Question mark. Well, that has to be answered later too. There's no way to measure that in outer space. Now we're talking about light, right? And the traveling of light. Determined, you've heard the words light years, right? Light years. Does light years actually exist? Is it a real thing? Well, we'll see. Can you see the sun in free space? It's only visible, the sun is. It's only visible when gross matter is involved, such as the Earth's atmosphere. And I've been saying this for quite a while. Mostly, I should say, when I began to put together the course for our multidimensional anatomy, when you start looking at the structure, you start seeing a electromagnetic circuit. So the whole entire thing is about electromagnetism. Okay? So the sun, it's only visible within the Earth's envelope or the surface of the moon. So we're talking about gross matter. In free space, you can see the Earth. You can see the moon. You can see material objects such as planets, so-called. But there is no source of light that can be seen. Light is only present within material objects. Within this electromagnetic circuit design that I was referring to, there is no time delay. And the measurement of light in free space becomes meaningless. And therefore, there is no such thing as light years according to this model that I'm looking to present. You have to remember that the math, the M-A-T-H, that the heliocentric model gives doesn't match up to what they say it is. When you start putting it to test, when you start looking for curvature, when you start looking at all these different things that they say that exists, and the idea of gravity, this magical thing that keeps this so-called sphere that's spinning 1,000 miles an hour from the water flying off. They don't know how gravity works, but there's this magical thing that holds the water on, and we're spinning around the sun 66,000.6, whatever it is, miles an hour. And they were flying down throughout the universe at tremendous speeds, which we don't experience any of that here. And when we put any of this stuff to test, when we actually take their math, the circumference of the circumference of the earth and so on and so forth, and we put it to test, it fails. It fails terribly. Okay? Now, the heliocentric model hasn't been around for all that long. However, the idea of this being a plane of existence with a firmament has been around for thousands of years. Of course, nobody really knew anything back then. We're just way too smart these days. Sure, whatever you say. So instead of the pinpoints of light being millions of years old, okay, it could be simply minutes or simultaneously. So minutes old or simultaneously. And if you can't see the stars and within free space, all these heliocentric theories, they just collapse. However, if you hear a lie long enough and you built a society and a culture and a worldview long enough, perpetuating a lie, eventually people just don't bother to even consider it being anything other than what they've been taught or have accepted, because it's been around since they come into this incarnation. And those that do challenge it are considered to be crazy. Isn't that interesting? So, the sun is not producing nuclear fission and the sun is hollow? Question mark. Again, the sun is a photosphere, a transformer of frequency and voltage. It is also a frequency modulator, or that which can be called a stargate. Okay? The sun is local. The moon is local. The sun is not 93 million miles away. Okay? It is a photosphere. It is local. The moon is local. Okay? These are luminous bodies. That is, they're not... I don't want to get too far into this because I'll start stepping over my feet. So, let me stay on track. So, the sunspots are holes that allow you to see inside. Yes. Well, not really inside so much as you can see through. But you can't see through to the other. You can't see through it dimensionally because our eyes only allow us to see certain things within this body. And that's been conditioned. Purposely. Let's all sing it together. Purposely. So, here's the following question. So, it's understood in radiophysics and studying atmosphere and sunspots, and the sun does not operate through fusion, and so-called fusion only comes out of the arcs because of the movement of current density that actually occurs between the arcs and the flares. So, the sun itself is not a fusion device. What we call the sun is a converter. A converter. So, I'm going to stop there for a second and just say, you do know that I'm reading this, right? So I can't see anything that anybody's saying right now. And so I have to go through this and finish it before I can come back and look. All right? Or I can stop, pull this down, but I'd rather just finish it. I'll check with everybody. Not too much going on here. All right. I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. That's usually how it works out. So, the sun itself is not a fusion device. What we call the sun is a converter. So, if you can't see the sun in free space, then the conversion is not complete until it connects to Earth's atmosphere or a physical object. Then it converts to electromagnetic light. The answer is yes. Exactly. Like I said, this is like a circuit. And in line with the circuit, you have, think of a ground. So it is going towards the ground, okay? So you can think of the photosphere as this wireless circuit component, all right? And the reason why you don't see it in free space is because it only can be seen when you're in a position of ground, or you can see the reflection or the connecting point, not reflection, the connecting point by looking at gross matter or physical objects. Is this making sense to you? I hope so. It's got to make sense to somebody because it makes sense to me. So, here, when the sun, the connection, connects to Earth's envelope, which is undefined, this is when it converts. Yeah, it's yes. I repeated that question in a different way, so totally unnecessary, but then again, so is a lot of things that I do, apparently. So, this is a voltage conversion like that of a giant Nikola Tesla lamp. And the answer to that would be, yes, you can say that. And let me add this. I was thinking about providing a portion of that interview that Nikola Tesla had in the later portion of his life, where he talks about creating another sun. And when you look at the heliocentric model, you scratch your head and say, how is that possible? Because within the heliocentric model, they think of the sun as being this nuclear fusion burning ball in the sky that's 93 million miles away. And Nikola Tesla knew that's not what it was. In fact, what I just said there, it's like a giant Nikola Tesla, it's like, well, let me go back here a second here. Yeah, I don't need to do that. I'll just keep going. But I'm sure people have seen, or may have seen, some pictures of Nikola Tesla in his laboratory with this huge, lamp-like tower emitting all this plasma arcs, right? There you go. He understood that the sun was a converter, a transformer of frequency and voltage. He's not the only one. So, it's electrical converter. Yeah. The magnetic equal opposite expression being electrical of the electromagnetism, again, being electrical or expanding energy of the field. It's converting from primary force to secondary force. When you look at a magnet has two poles, but it's one and the same within contracting and expanding energy, okay, you could say. These are forces, right? So everything is electromagnetic. The electromagnetic structure is it's how we have our being here. It's how we do anything here, really. It's how this body lives, okay? So everything, that's the basis for everything. And you see that within the encryption of the so-called particuli, okay? That's another subject. So once the emission interacts with physical matter, it reverts to reduced form. Okay, this is in regard to the connecting point of the photosphere and why you're experiencing in certain places, oh, it's cold here, oh, it's hot here, blah, 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 blah. This is a process of downstepping, okay? So that's one way that you can put it. In Keylontic science, it refers to it as downstepping. No, I didn't get this stuff from Keylontic science, all right? Because Keylontic science teaches things different. They teach a different cosmology, you know, and which I don't subscribe to. Some of it I do, some of it I don't. Okay, so this downstepping produces what is known as heat, light, and mechanical activity. Heat, light, and mechanical activity. So this is how within different regions you have different temperatures. This is not even, we're not even getting into the idea of particle spin rate yet, which we're going to because we have to answer a couple questions. So we're going to do that now. So to answer the earlier question, how does the sun create light? Oh, okay. Let's get into it. It's not so much that it is creating light, but we'll go ahead and answer that. The sun is a photosphere. We already established that, at least I have. A surface that acts as a transformer of frequency and voltage, converting the primary force to a secondary force. And once the radiation interacts with physical matter, it generates the electromagnetic light spectrum. Does everybody get that? Should I repeat that? I'm not going to. This takes too long. So I'll have to keep going, otherwise I won't get done. So if the sun is a transformer, it is transforming other frequencies from elsewhere. Now we're going to answer the second question. What other frequencies is it transforming? Or is other frequencies coming through it? The answer to that would be, you betcha. So, give me a second here. I have to move this mouse around, and it has a mind of its own. So the sun, we know, well, I'm just going to take it for granted to say it's not a fiery ball in the sky, and the earth is not spinning around it, but the sun rather is a photosphere, okay, to repeat. A surface that acts as a transformer of frequency and voltage, converting the primary force to a secondary force. And once the radiation interacts with physical matter, gross matter, atmosphere, okay, it generates the electromagnetic light spectrum. So where is it transforming from? Where is it transforming from? Anybody know that? Know that answer? Well, it appears to be coming from the pole star. Okay? A programmed broadcast station that is pulsing out command codes that are currently redirecting the ether particles that make up the space-time fabric into illuminating at the flash line speed selected by each, here we go, by each God, small g, in quotes, that is in charge of their granted or leased lands, here, boots on the ground, based on scripts that this dimension of the time matrix is presently confined. I'm sure plenty of you have come across the word firmament in relationship to the waters being above the waters. We see it throughout history. We see it within the biblical text. We have direct experience with it that's been brushed under the rug. Hence the reason for this heliocentric globe model, because of who's actually running the world here. these beings, boots on the ground, that's in charge of their granted and leased lands based on scripts that's been created, contracts, you can call it contracts if you wish, within this time matrice, and we're presently confined to this. Is there a way out of it? Yeah, through transmutation. But that's another subject now, isn't it? We're still talking about the sun, but we're now talking about transmission that is occurring and where it's coming from. So I got a couple. I need to pull the. Give me a second. I'll come back to this. Okay. Still trying to get this mouse to work right. All right. So give me a second here. All right. Stop it. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and play this real quick. It's just a graphic, but it'll give you an idea. Yeah, Polaris. Here we go. Polestar. Boom. Oh, as you can see there, the Earth is a little bit too round, but the idea, you get the idea if you really look at this. All right, that circle around it, there is a, see if I can pause this. Is there any way I can pause it? Nah, guess not. I'll just play it again. Anyhow, so what you see is these circles that look like a magnetic field, being produced north and south. And then around that you see, I'll play it again. Anyhow, and so around it you see what I'm depicting as the firmament, and the pole star, you see there's a pulsation or taking place to, give the idea as far as what's going on there. So the transmission Polaris Alpha Draconis firmament is actually artificial reality. It's a 7-layer frequency fence, or you could say it's a 7-dimensional frequency fence. And this is made up of water, believe it or not. Yes, water. It has a lot more significance than most people will know here, because you don't remember anything being here. So I'm going to go to a time lapse here. All right, so as you can see right there, that's a time lapse, right? Recording. We are a geocentric plane. We're stationary. We're not moving anywhere. Everything else is moving around us. What is stationary is us and the pole star, as you can see, because everything's spinning around. Those are stars, quote unquote. Those are spinning around through time lapse, right? Recorded 24 hours or whatever it is. But it's a perfect indication, right? And let me go into, let me see if I can, give me a second. Trying to get this mouse to behave. It's not a well-behaved mouse. Okay. This takes a while. Sorry, folks. Can't be helped. I'm working with what I'm working with. All right, let me get rid of myself. I don't need to be here. Hopefully you can, you can still hear me. So, particle spin. All right, let me go back to my document that I created for myself for this particular live stream. All right, so you look there to the left, you can see a two-dimensional image of the movement of current, like electrical current, electromagnetic current. This particle spin rate illusion distorts everything from how it was supposed to give the time sensation equally across the Earth's grid, and what you actually see with your eyes is dictated by the pulsation rate of the gamma rays coming from the sun or from some other source that we can't see, which I just illustrated there a little bit ago, such as the individually tuned Nerubian diodic crystal grid temples that pulses out the precise flash line sequence for that one region or land mass. Okay, what does that mean? Well, if you've been paying attention, you understand that when we're talking about time zones, these are not time zones. They're manipulated, and I prefer to use the word God zones. Okay, should I read what I just read again? I think I'll read it again. Okay, before we get into the next part. We're almost done, so no worries. Okay, so I'm going to read this again. This particle spin rate illusion distorts everything from how it was supposed to give the time sensation equally across the Earth's grid, and what you actually see with your eyes is dictated by the pulsation rate of the gamma rays coming from the sun or coming through, right? Frequency, transmission, right? Okay, it is it's a transformer of frequency and voltage. It is a frequency modulator, okay, converter, transformer, the sun, photosphere. So your eyes is dictated, what you see with your eyes is dictated by the pulsation rate of the gamma rays coming from the sun or from some other source that we can't see, such as the individually tuned Nerubian diodic crystal grid temples that pulses out the precise flash line sequence for that one region or land mass. This is how we have the illusion of time zones. It's pulse rate, particle spin rate manipulation, and that's occurring through the pulse, through the pole star. So it may look like the same 24 hours between each sunset to sunset, quote unquote. It's not really a sunset, it's just moving further away. So no matter where you're standing around the center regions of Earth, but the speed of the particles differ greatly. Again, time zones, its particle spin rate. This would be much simpler. It would definitely be a much simpler explanation if the sun was radiating light, which it's not. Example, the rays of the sun enter the atmosphere at 6 o'clock. So you think you see the sun from that location in the sky, but it's not emanating light at all. Rather, the rays it's sending down are merely scalar mapped time vector coordinated frequency. Everything is frequency. And the structure is built through the electromagnetic structure. For lack of terms, I'll use structure twice. So, almost done, folks. I know, probably this is like making your eyes roll in the back of your head. Our eyes cannot actually see this, but you believe the light appears when it's supposed to appear. Yeah, you do. And then sets when the sun is supposed to set. You can think of this in terms of flipping a light switch to create artificial light. You can think in those terms. And in this case, for those creating this illusion, it is as simple as flipping a light switch for them. The technology that is being used is hundreds of million years. It's hundreds of millions of years far beyond what is understood here. So we're talking about manipulating space-time and creating universal structures. So Time zones are the result of the variance of frequency. Remember that. Time zones are the result of the variance of frequency, pulsation, or flash line sequences across the sections of Earth or its grid. So we're just now beginning to understand that, this matrix that we're in, and it goes against every fundamental indoctrination this world has, been propagating how light works. So I'm going to go ahead and close up here in a second. Almost finished. So the programmed, individually tuned Nerubian diodic crystal grid broadcast station pulsing out these command codes distorts everything here from how it was supposed to have appeared to give the time sensation equally around this realm when the dual, because there's supposed to be two photospheres, organic suns projected the correct command codes to keep all of Earth's playing fields harmoniously working in synchronization. So again, the technology in place to achieve this reality is hundreds of millions of years beyond our current civilization. So it is understandably difficult for anybody to accept this as being the truth or real. But again, considering what's going on in this world, people are starting to wake up for sure. So maybe, what we're experiencing here is part of where we're being redirected. However, I would have to say that the majority are not aware. Only the circles that I've been running in, let's put it that way, and things that cross my path, because I orchestrate, like we all do, we orchestrate things to cross our path so that we would be reminded of the truth. And a lot of the times, it's very difficult to receive the truth, even though we may be seeking it. So, I am going to... There's more to be said, but I'm done. Because, talking to a camera, I know there's people here, but there's I don't see anybody really saying much of anything except for Daphne. Thank you, Daphne. But I need to go back and check and see what anybody had said, so I know. Try to, anyhow. Give me a moment, please, and I will see if I can find something here. I don't know what's going on with this thing. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right. See what I missed. Okay. Sally. Hello. Hi. Nice to see you again. Well, it's atmospheric. You're talking about a tan from the sun. It's atmospheric. It has to do with the conditions. Okay? The heat that's being produced. You're actually being cooked. You're not being tanned. You're being cooked. So, just letting you know. And again, it's not emanating light. I would recommend, this is not an easy subject, all right? And it's really not anybody let me know if you heard anybody talking about this. Seriously. Anybody except for myself. Because I don't go looking. I don't go looking for anything. Things cross my path and I'll see something. I'll spend like 5 minutes, 10 minutes with something. Occasionally if it's a long video, occasionally I'll watch it because usually I just don't want to get up and change it. But normally I just like, I don't spend much time with things. I just don't. Especially these days. I don't have much time to spend. I want to spend time with doing what I want to do. And I can't seem to do that. At least do very little of it. Yeah, I'm not complaining. I just don't know of anybody out there that's talking about any of this stuff. So my point is, at least to get lost where I'm going with this, you probably need to go back and listen to it again because it's new information for most people. I would pretty clear. That would be clear to say. I think. So, yeah, it takes a while to kind of embrace it because when we come across something that's new, we're always filtering it through the things that we've been indoctrinated within, and we're always looking at it, whatever it is, through the spectacles of our belief. You know, if it's our choice to believe it, or if it's something that we've been indoctrinated to believe, which mostly is most things, it makes it difficult to see what's being said or what's being communicated, and it takes a while to process it. So my recommendation is go back and listen to this. And then if you have any questions, you can ask me direct, but ask questions according to what I'm communicating. I know this was probably a bit difficult to follow because I kept stopping and having to start over again in some cases. But I think I did a clear enough presentation of this for you to be able to follow along with it. And like I said, being able to go back and listen to it, you'll be able to take notes and stuff like that. Yeah. We're on a geocentric world. It's not a heliocentric world. Yeah. And that means a lot, actually, because in context to what I was saying and the transmission coming through the photosphere and the connection to the pole star and the Nerubian, so-called, according to chelantic science. Now, I have no way to validate this, but I've heard this through other external sources. Well, one other external source. And so you can call it whatever you want to call it. Chelantic science so happens to call it the Nerubian diodic crystal grid temple jigamathig, okay, which is just a mouthful, you know. I'd rather just say, well, it's transmission of frequency that is altering our reality or our perception of what reality is here. It's artificial, okay. So, yeah. Like I said, there's a lot more to be said about this, but I'm not going to be saying any more. Well, thank you. I'm done. But I want to see who else might have stepped in. So Sally, Soul Touch of Healing. Okay, hello. I came across your music and I'm so grateful. It touched my heart. Thank you. Thank you so much because my music is my story. It's my soul's reflection, and that's what I really want to do for the rest of my life, actually, is just do that. I don't really want to teach and do these things unless I'm directed to do it. I'm only doing this at this point because I've been in a position of waiting, and I've been waiting most of my life. Now I'm telling my life story. I don't need to do that. But thank you, because that is very meaningful to me, and that people are receiving what my intention has always been with that expression of art. It's what I prefer to do for the rest of my life, just that, because it holds the encryption for healing, it holds the encryption for remembering, it holds the encryption for transmutation. And sometimes it's just really nice to listen to. So. Okay. Well, this was a pretty good live stream, I think. I feel good about it. So hopefully it has come across that way. Um, yeah, there's a lot of people talking about this being a geocentric world. Um, there's a lot of people really. There's a few people out there that are really good at doing that, and but what I'm talking about starts taking it off world and starting looking at start looking more at the mechanics of what's here in regard to frequency and how all this stuff works fundamentally. You know, I mean, when you come into this, you have, you know, you can't hold the memory because this body and this condition doesn't allow for that. Now you can change, transmute, and do certain things here, which you can recover things. Obviously, you can do that. But for the majority of the people, that's not the situation because it's established for that. So it maintains the objective agendas as mentioned within the latter part of this presentation in regard to the pole star, the transmissions through the photosphere, and how this is distorting or creating this artificial reality here. These are for these beings that are, which I referred to as these gods, little g, that have leased, like rented, you know, have certain lands that they purchased for lease so they can do their thing. And everybody in every agency here that's established is working for them. And this thing with the Artemis moon journey thing, absolute bullshit. And either the President of the United States is completely naive to this, which I have a hard time believing that, or he's part of it too. You know, proof is in with what you come to know that adds up. So it's not speculation when you see things repeating itself over and over and over again. Well, you're being cooked, of course. You're being cooked, of course. That's the reason why you get tan. I mean, if you get a chicken, right? You take a chicken, you put it in the oven, right? And then you leave the lid off of it, and you turn up the oven. What happens to the chicken? Does it turn brown? And if you stay out in the sun long enough, you get leathery skin. You're being cooked. I mean, being out in front of the photosphere for a period of time is a good thing, right? Well, at least there's other frequencies coming through it, so good ones. Okay, let's just say it that way. So that's good, but you know, everything in moderation. So no worries. Just saying. I'm just saying it's not producing heat and light. Light is a heat, light, you know, mechanical activity. All these are downstepped products of the connection of the frequencies coming through, being transmitted. Okay. Again, this is like a big circuit, like an electromagnetic circuit, and you can think of these things, the sun as a major component, okay, in that circuit. So, but because, you know, well, I don't want to go on with this any further, honestly. I'll just wear myself out, and I feel that coming on at this point. So there's other things I have to be doing this afternoon, or it's more early evening now here. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye. If anybody has anything they would like to say or communicate, let me know. If you share this video, I mean, do what you can to help me because I need all the help I can get, you know. And that's, you know, that's the absolute truth. Not that I don't try to be transparent, but I get really tired of having to ask for help. Okay? At this point of 16 years here online, I think I should have been past that by now, but nope. So I need help. So anybody that can help me out in any way, whether it's promoting what I'm doing here, whether it's financially, whether it's being part of Patreon, whatever it is, thank you. I need it. So blessings to everybody. And I'm going to say good day, good night to you, wherever you may be on this plane of existence.